Hello students, Ms. Swanson here, and today we're going to take a look at the tissues in the human body. Now you can see from this picture here an example of an organ. The stomach has many of these different tissues inside of it, and they all work together to help that organ function properly. So we have one learning goal for today, to name each of the 4 basic human tissues and describe their appearance and roles. So the first tissue we'll look at is muscle tissue, and who better to show us muscle tissue than Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson? Now if you want to pause the video here just to take a look at all his muscles, I wouldn't blame you. So there are 3 types of muscle tissue: skeletal muscle, which is sometimes pronounced as skeletal muscle, smooth muscle, and cardiac muscle. So we can see the skeletal muscle is made up, they almost look like these rods that are attached together, and they're banded. So there are these lines that come down around the circumference of each of those rods. Smooth muscle has a wide center and then skinny outsides. And then the cardiac muscle is made of these rods that are branched. So each of the rods are attached together so that it makes almost a meshwork. The skeletal muscle is used to move parts of the skeleton, and it's under conscious control, which means it's voluntary muscle. So if I want to move my bicep, I can move my bicep, and I'm telling my brain, okay, I want to move my bicep, and then my brain makes that happen. So this is something that we can control. Smooth muscle is in the internal organs, and it causes the contents of hollow organs like the stomach or the intestines to move things through it. It's not under conscious control, so we call it involuntary muscle, and that means we don't have to think about it to make our muscle churn, or our stomach muscles churn our food. The stomach muscles will just churn on their own. We don't have to make that happen. The next is the cardiac muscle, and it only exists in the heart. It's not under conscious control, so we don't have to make our heart beat. It'll do it on its own. And you can see there how all of the different cardiac cells are all attached together as they separate and then are attached to the next cell. So let's look at the next tissue, which is the nervous tissue. It conducts electrical impulses to allow for communication among the different tissue types within organs, and you can have nerve cells that are connected to other nerve cells and so on across the whole body. It's made up of special cells called neurons, and neurons are made up of almost 3 different parts. There are the dendrites, which are these branched out sort of fingers that come out of the cell. Those all branch out and are attached to the central part of the cell, so the almost sort of round part in that picture, which is called the cell body. So there are signals that come from the dendrites and they come towards the cell body. And then there's one single long unbranched axon, and so signals from the cell body go along the axon, and then it's branched at the very end to connect to different cells to send that signal over to those other cells. And here's some examples of nervous cells. You can see them in green. So you can see the dendrites attached to the round cell body, and then a long axon coming away from it, which is slightly branched at the end to connect to different cells. The next is the epithelial tissue. It's the covering or the lining of free body surfaces, both internal and external. So things like your skin would be epithelial tissue, as well as the lining around the outside of your stomach to keep it from smushing into your other organs. Also the lining around the inside of your stomach to keep the insides from smushing into each other. Epithelial tissue has a role in protection, absorption, excretion, and lubrication. And the outer layer of the skin, inner linings of the digestive tract, inner linings of the blood vessels are all examples of the epithelial tissue. And it has several different possible shapes. They can be flat, and these are called squamous. They can be square, which are called cuboidal, or they can be long and rectangular, and these are called columnar. There are also some special cells that are just in the bladder that help you keep liquids in your bladder without having to go to the washroom very frequently, and those are slightly different cells, but they look similar to the columnar. And then the last type of tissue is the connective tissue. It supports, anchors, and connects parts of the body to each other. And it's made of cells and fibers. So it's made of a lot of fibers. Some of them are collagenous fibers, which are strong and keep parts of the body together. And then there's also elastic fibers, which are stretchy, which allow for movement. And then there are cells within it that help produce these fibers so that the body can continually make fibers to allow different parts of the body to connect. And then one last part about connective tissue is that blood is actually classified as a type of connective tissue, and you can see some of the different types of blood cells are shown in the picture there. So let's take another look at our learning goal. Can you name each of the 4 basic types of human tissues, and can you describe their appearances and roles? If you can do this, fantastic. If not, please rewatch the video, and if you're still having trouble, come ask me in class tomorrow. Alright, that's all for now. Bye-bye.